Now we will do our next assignment problem, which is E27A. So here, if you read the problem, you will see it's kind of a continuation of your previous problem, which is E226A. So now for this one, we need to prepare an income statement. If you remember from your previous accounting course, I mean financial accounting, you should know that when you are going to prepare your income statement, you need to list all of your revenues and all of your expense items. Now here you will see this information. So this information assume that the company sold 34,000 units of its product at a price of $12 each. So they sold 34,000 and per unit selling price is $12. So if you multiply these two, you will find their total sales revenue. This is how you will find your sales revenue. Now you need to subtract some expenses. So from our previous problem, you saw that there are two expenses. One is marketing expense and another is general and administrative expense. So these two expenses, we're gonna use these two amounts here and we will subtract that. But in addition to these two expenses, we need to consider another expense at the very beginning, and which is our cost of goods sold. So cost of goods sold you just calculated when you did your previous problem, and we will consider that cost of goods sold. So our income statement will look like this. Our income statement will look exactly like this. We will start with our sales, we will subtract our cost of goods sold, and this is how we will get gross profit. So gross profit is the difference between sales and cost of goods sold. Again, there is a typo here. And then we will subtract our other expenses, and those expenses are usually called operating expenses. And you know what are these expenses? You have marketing expense, you have general and administrative expenses. These are some sort of your operating expense. These are not related to your manufacturing process, but obviously you need to spend monies on these expenses to operate your business. So we will try to follow this structure and we will do our next problem, which is E227A. So let's try to do our next problem, which is E227A. And for this problem, we will prepare income statement. So if you know the name of the company, you should write it down. It says West Nautical Company. And you will write down the name of your statement. It's income statement. If you know your year, you should write it down, but we actually don't know the year, so you can just write it down for the current year. Now I will highlight this part. This is our title of our statement. Now we are going to do income statement. I just showed you we will start with our sales revenue. Then we'll subtract our cost of goods sold. We'll find out our cost of goods sold from previous problem. And the difference we'll call it gross profit. And then we'll subtract our operating expenses. For this problem, operating expenses are marketing expenses and general and administrative expense. And this is how you will find your operating income. And if you don't have any interest or tax or any other type of expense, you can also call it your net income. So let's try to do that. First, we will write our sales revenue. So sales revenue, you need to do little calculations. So how you will calculate sales revenue? You need to check how many units you sold. And what was your selling price? So you sold 34,000 units, and each unit you sold for $12. So we will multiply these two, 34,000 and $12. So this is how you will find your total sales revenue, which is, if you use your calculator, you'll find it's 408,000. So this is our sales revenue. Next, we will subtract our cost of goods sold. So these cost of goods sold we'll find from our previous problem, because these two problems are related. So if you go back here, you will find your cost of goods sold, which is 230,600. So now I will subtract this cost of goods sold, which is 230,600. And this difference, we will call it gross profit. Gross profit. So if you have your calculator, you can check 408,000 minus 230,600. You will find 177,400. This is your gross profit. And then we're going to subtract our operating expenses. Operating expenses. And we'll see what are our operating expenses. So for this problem, you have two expenses that are related to your regular operation. These are marketing expense and general and administrative expense. So first we have marketing expense, and sometimes it's called G and A. G and A expense, that means general and administrative expense. So how much is our marketing expense? Our marketing expense is $77,000. So I'm going to subtract our marketing expense, which is 77,000, and our G and A expense, that means general and administrative expense, is 28,500. So now I will subtract that one too. That is 28,500. And this is how you will find your operating income, or you can also call it your net income if you don't have any other expense item. So if I subtract these two, you will find it is operating income, and which is 71,900. That's your operating income, and that's actually the end of this problem. Not sure why it's working like this. That's not a big deal. So we need to do the income statement, and this is how we will do your income statement. You have to calculate your revenues, then you have to subtract your cost of goods sold. The difference you will call gross profit. Then you have to subtract your operating expenses, and this is how you will get your operating income. That's it. So this was our next assignment problems, and based on this problem you need to do some homework. So if you watch next slide, you will see what are your homework problems, and these problems are exactly like these problems. So you need to do those problems and you need to bring it next class.